Okay guys, I'm back. This is my last module. This is module number 9, your bonus number 2. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about negotiation. How do we negotiate deals? Interesting, do we agree? I'm going to give you not the objections and so on, but I'm going to give you ways and strategies and thoughts about how to negotiate. You know, there's some people out there that will write 200 offers and they'll write them, vendors asking 600, they'll write an offer at 400. The only thing they're doing there is slapping the vendor in the face, do we agree? And they're saying, we're real estate investors, so we'll write many offers every week, 10 offers a week, send them out. Well, the only thing you're doing there is you're wasting your time as far as I'm concerned. You're wasting your real estate agent's time and you're wasting the vendor's time. And guess what? You're not making friends here. And one of my key points in real estate is that the deal has to be a win-win. You have to be able basically to date the vendor, and then you're going to get deals that you have no clue how good they're going to be. So guys, this is a bonus section, how to negotiate real estate deals, and that's for you as a gift that I'm giving you out here. Talk to you soon, guys. I'm going to be back in a few minutes.
Okay guys, this is our bonus number 2, and look at the title that I have here. How to sell a deal, not buy a property or buy a deal. Because, you know, what happens is that real estate is, as much as people say it's brick and mortar, real estate is a people's business. If you don't get along with the vendor, if you don't get along with people, if you're not there to create a win-win situation or find a solution to your vendor's problem, because don't forget, the vendor is a person that has a problem when he puts a house for sale or property for sale. You know, I joke in my classes when I do live training, I say, hey guys, how many of you guys got up this morning, we're in a great mood? So most people say, yeah, we were. I says, well, if you were a vendor and you had a property that was 40% vacant, that you had a cash flow problem, that you were getting divorced, that your roof leaked, that your tenants were leaving right, left, and center, and you need to spend some money, and you were turned down at the bank, and you'd put a property out for sale, would you be, who is in the best or worst mood? The vendor is in the worst mood, and who has the problem here? The person who has a problem is the vendor, not you as the purchaser. And that's a straight thing that you have to start thinking of when you negotiate in real estate. You do not have a problem when you meet the vendor. The person that has the problem is the vendor. He's the one that wants to sell the property. You don't need to buy the guy's property. Do we agree? And why would you buy the guy's problem? Why would you go out there and buy somebody else's property that is full of problem? 45% vacancy, bad tenants, crack house, crackheads in there. I say crack house, crackhead. I mean, you know, bad tenants. Why would you buy a property that has a roof that's leaking, windows have not been changed, that has not been maintained, that you're going to have to put some time, some sweat, some cash, some equity in there, that you're going to go out to the bank and risk by getting a mortgage, by giving your house a guarantee, by doing all those kind of things? Why would you take that on? Except for you to make a profit at the end. Do we agree? And if the vendor looks at his property and says, I want $500,000 because, you know, when it's going to be full, it's going to be worth that. When it's going to be repaired, it's going to be worth that. When we're going to have kicked out the tenants or increased the rent or done all these things, it's going to be worth that kind of money. Mr. Vendor, I agree with you here. But right now what I'm buying is a distressed property, and you don't tell him, a distressed vendor. You're the one with all those problems, not me. And I don't need your problem. I'm willing and I'm capable of solving them and resolving them and making money out of it. But I'm not paying the price for a brand new property with great tenants, with great this, when actually I'm going to have to do all that work, because why would I do it? And the reason the property's in, and now don't forget, this is my mindset here. You don't tell them that up front on your first meeting. But the reason the property's in that shape is that because you don't know how to maintain it. You don't know how to get good tenants. You don't know how to do all these kind of things. You don't tell them that, but this is what your mind should tell you. Do we agree on this? So what I'm looking for is that, first of all, my position is always, I don't need another property. The deal has to be good enough for me to step in and to risk it. And Mr. Vendor, actually, I'm here to help you if you're willing to help me buy the property from you. Do we agree? And I know you would like, and this is me self-talking to myself, and I hope you understand this. I know, Mr. Vendor, you'd like your $600,000 for your property, but realistically, if I was to do all my numbers and look at the GRM, the cap rates, the 1% rule, if I did a Tim Horton presentation on it, and what would be the maximum price, maximum allowable purchase price, we call this the MAP. If I was to do all this, your property is only worth $436,728, and you're asking me $525 because you're telling me, well, you're going to be able to get in and increase the rent. Well, Mr. Vendor, if you haven't increased the rent over the last 5 years, there must be a reason. You just did not decide not to increase the rent. So, I mean, sorry to say that, guys, but don't give me any BS here. You're selling for one particular reason. You either want to cash in on a profit, and we talked about that before. If the guy wants to cash in on a profit, that might not be the property that you're looking at buying. You're looking at buying from a distressed vendor, distressed property, and something that you can make money on and have a win-win situation. So I always take that approach. As I get up in the morning, I don't have to buy real estate. I will buy a piece of real estate if it is a good deal for me, and if I could make it a good deal for the vendor, if I could make it a win-win for both of us, and if I could, realistically help him out. And you'll see that if you start with the idea that how in the world can I help this guy out while buying his property and giving him what he needs to at the start, at the end. Did you see that? You notice I said what he needs, not what he wants. If I could give him what he needs, then I could probably get to that point where I'll help him. So my mindset is always, I don't need to buy the property. The other thing is that when you're dealing in real estate, you always want to have a partner, be it a silent partner, be it I always laugh. I said, you always have a partner. If it's a four-legged animal at home that when you come in wags his tail right to left, then it's a yes, or top to bottom it's a yes, right to left it's a no. You look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, hey partner, should we buy this property today? So one of the first things that you have to get used from now on is to always, when you call somebody, a real estate agent or vendor, say, Mr. Smith, my name is Marc Mousseau. My partner and I are looking at buying investment properties in your area, and we happen to find this through John Smith, the realtor, and we'd like to get a bit of information on it and start the discussion. Now, I've also mentioned earlier about the dating principle. And guys, when I say you sell a deal, you don't buy it. You have to sell yourself here. You have to get the vendor to like you. I was practicing some sales calls, and when I did creative financing with some students in one of the cities, Calgary, last year, we were sitting down, and I split up the class in two, and I said, okay, you guys are the buyers, you guys are the sellers, and let's role play just a telephone call. And it is amazing how many people would not be even able to communicate on the phone. They were stressing out on the phone, or they were going directly, hi sir, how are you? I'm calling about the ad that you have in the paper. How much you want for the property, and are you willing to carry? And how much of a mortgage you have on it? In the first 3 minutes, these three questions were there. And what that does is it puts the vendor, it's like putting the vendor to his back to the wall, and he doesn't like it. Think about it. Your call on a Saturday afternoon, you're with your family, or you're preparing for dinner, you're barbecuing, you're in the pool, your real estate agent, well, not when, real estate agent won't act that way, hopefully, but you get to the vendor and you just poke him like this. What would you do? What would you do as a vendor if somebody poked you like that? But if you call somebody and say, listen, my name is Marc Mousseau, I'm calling about the ad that you have in the newspaper, I hope I don't disturb you right now, sir. And guys, be polite. Sir and ma'am does a great thing to people. So I hope I'm not disturbing you, sir. My name is Marc Mousseau. I'm calling you on the ad that you put in the paper. And you don't want to start talking about the property. You don't want to be the first one to talk about the property. You want to get to know who they are, what do they have, and so on and so on. And basically, you're going to be Say, I'm calling about the property that you have for sale. No, you're not even going to start there. How are you doing? Yes, oh, it's a beautiful day outside. Mind if I ask where you live exactly? Oh, I live in Phoenix. Wow, Phoenix, that's a beautiful place to be. Is the weather nice out there? I hope you're enjoying your weekend with your family and all that. Get some information from there so that they like you. If they like you, they'll spill their guts. Now, you're going to find some people like me at times where I'll say, hey, listen, get down to business. Then the door is open for you to start asking questions. John, I saw that you have a property. My understanding is you're asking $600,000. How did you come up with that price? Well, that's what I want. Okay, no problem. And then continue talking. So one of the key things here in understanding and putting a deal together is to remember that the vendor must like you. And it's the dating principle. The dating principle basically says that you cannot ask for everything on the first date. You know, you say, John, I'll write you an offer to purchase, and on that offer to purchase, there's 48 clauses. And in the due diligence, you're already listing, and that's what I'm going to give it to you as an example. On your due diligence, the vendor agrees to supply the purchaser the following documents. An income and expense statement. So that's normal. Everybody wants an income. Copies of the deposit book, copies of the deposit slips, copies of the checks, copies of the tax bill, copies of the management contract, copies of the maintenance contract, copies of the insurance policy, copies of this, copies of that, The guy looks at you. You don't even have you don't even have a deal yet, and you're asking him to pull all that out. So you know, you're better off saying, listen, Mr. Vendor, I'll need, necessary documents to do my due diligence. It will include probably an income and expense statement, balance sheet. I'll probably ask you for copies of rent rolls. And if the guy, once the offer is done that way, the vendor is already saying, yep, I like the guy. It makes sense. He wants, the necessary documents to do his due diligence. And then in your offer to purchase, you'd say, well, the vendor agrees to supply all necessary documents to the purchaser in order for him to complete its due diligence at his sole and absolute discretion. Well, that by his end, the purchaser will supply within 24 hours a list of the necessary documents. So now suddenly you've gotten to accept your offer. You're dating him. You're in a position where, yeah, I understand, Mark, you need to do your due diligence. Awesome, I'll give you what you need. And then you see you're not getting the guy upset and say, what do you mean? You want copies of my bank statements, you want copies of my bank deposit books, you want copies of the checks to the insurance company, you want copies of the taxes, you want copies of the maintenance contract, you want this like now? Relax a bit, man. We don't even have a deal yet. So everything that you're going to ask it as if you were dating. I won't say who, what, because I don't know who's dating who here. But do you understand what I'm saying here? It's easier to say, listen, let's go have coffee, let's have lunch, let's have dinner, let's have a romantic evening, let's have a romantic night, and let's go on vacation. Do we agree? But if the first time you meet somebody, you say, listen, here's what I want. You want $600,000? Okay, I'm going to give you $4 million. And you're going to guarantee the rent. And you're going to give me this, 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 and that. And by the way, I'm not paying you any interest on that. And for 6 to 12 months, and afterwards I'm paying you 2%, and you're going to give me a credit at closing for $30,000, so I don't put any money down. Well, guess what the vendor does when that happens? His back goes to the wall. He doesn't like you. But if you get to a point where the vendor likes you and wants to deal with you, you're going to get everything you want. And remember the dating principle. And anytime you ask for something, you give him something back. Hey, John, by the way, I finished the income and expense statement, but I have a few questions now. I'm just at the point where I'm verifying, confirming the rent. Would you mind giving me your bank deposits book? Why do you need my bank deposit books? Well, I just want to cross them to your income and expense statement. Oh, now it's getting a bit trickier, do we agree? Because now he's telling you that he's deposited, let's say, $40,000, and in reality, he only deposited $30,000 because he put $6,000 in his pockets. Oh, well, what are you buying? Are you buying the declared or the actual money? So now as I'm going to be doing my due diligence, I said, John, I understand that you might lose money as you go, or, you got paid your rent and you bought some parts with it or something, but you know, you're basically telling me that you collected 40 this year, but you only could prove to me 30. I don't understand where the balance would be. Then, John, I'm going to ask you a favor. Did you really collect 40? Well, are you willing to warrant those rent for at least 6 months? You see what I'm hearing, and you see what I mean by warrant? Are you willing to guarantee me my $40,000 a year rent for the next 6 months? But you cannot go up at the start of your negotiation and ask this. Does that make any sense for you guys? And guys, I will have a sales course just on sales because I think it's key to, the key to buying real estate is selling yourself and selling the vendor on who you are, what you know, and what you could do for him. So that's the basics of how to sell a deal. The vendor has to like you, and when the vendor will like you, he will be open to maybe do a good deal with you on your house. He may have other properties also, and he might want actually you to buy all of his stuff. Now, what I also want to do in this little section here is I want to give you maybe a way to handle objections, because I think we're getting that very often. You're getting objections like, well, Mark, your deposit is way too low. What do you say when that happens? Well, Mr. Ventford, I'll give you the rule. I'll give you the 10 steps to it, and then you'll understand. So give me one little second. I'll just prepare a little something for you guys, and I'll go from there. Just give me a sec. Okay, I'm back. So let's just say that we have a vendor that says, you present the offer to purchase, and the first thing that he says is basically, your deposit is too low. Well, by the way, when the first objection that the vendor gives you is always the one that he feels the most comfortable and the one that has almost no meaning to him. So the first thing you should do when an objection comes up is just ignore it. So, hey, Mark, your deposit is too low. Yeah, I understand, John, but I'm looking at your income and expense statement here, and it basically states that. So you'll redirect his first objection to something else. It's almost a pattern interrupt, if I could say so. So the first one is ignore the objection. Now let's say he says, hey, didn't you hear me here? I said that the deposit is too low. Hear him out. Oh. Okay. Okay. Well, I understand, but let me ask you a question. I was looking at your income and expense statement, and there's a problem there. Again, did I answer him? Did I tell him anything about his deposit too low? Nothing at all. And he says, well, listen, the second time I'm telling you it's too low. Don't you hear me? Your objection to that is, well, what do you mean, John, it's too low? And shut up. Because he's now going to have to explain why he thinks it's too low. Because if you had first thing, if you presented the offer and you said, and the first thing he says, well, John, your deposit is too low. Well, Mark, it doesn't make sense. A deposit is not too low. Like, I can't give money everywhere. Isn't it a lot better to say, well, deposit is too low. Well, I understand, John. And, I was looking at your income and expense statement, and this is what I think. Well, didn't you hear me? I said the deposit is too low. Okay. Okay, hear him out. And the third one, he says, well, it's the third time I'm telling you the deposit is too low. Man, I'm getting a bit frustrated. Well, what do you mean it's too low? Now he has to actually sell himself on the deposit is too low. Now, as you go by this, so he's going to say, well, it's too low because, my friend out there, he was going to give me $10,000 deposit, and, on a transaction of $5 million, giving $10,000 deposit doesn't make sense, and And then your next thing is that question him. Get more information of the real objection and why it's important. Well, John, really? That I give you $3,000 on $1 million, or that I give you $50,000 on $1 million? When we're going to close, aren't you going to get your whole $1 million regardless? And then again, shut up. So you're questioning him, and then you're feeding him back some information. Then next step to this is almost that, John, you really seem to be upset, or you seem at first to be upset about deposit too low, but I now understand what you said, and I agree with you. Maybe, if let me ask you a question here. is is this your final objection? And if we could resolve this deposit and having a bigger deposit, would we have a deal? Oh, ben no, Mark. I mean, deposit is just one thing. Really, where we have a problem is because the first, you see where I came up? So that first objection is always the weakest objection out there. Oh, deposit is too low. Okay, so I'll give you a $100,000 deposit. Okay, so we've got a deal now. Ben no. Now the price is not good. Oh, well, if I pay you full price and I give you a deposit, do we have a deal? Ben no, you're closing in 4 months from now. Oh boy. Okay, so if I give you your deposit, I give you full price, and I close in 90 days, do we have a deal? Ben no, I don't own the property, so why are you talking to me here? I'm joking at this point, but you understand what I'm saying here, is that you need to get to a point where you're going to test close the with the vendor. At a certain point also, you also have to make the vendor, you also have to align with your vendor and make him comfortable. Yeah, John, I understand deposit is too low. You know, and you mentioned that that would be the last thing. So if I was able to, let's say, give you 5 today and 5 in 30 days after you supplied me with all your due diligence document, and once I remove my conditions, give you maybe another 25, would that satisfy you? So now I'm aligning with him. I understand, and now I'm putting terms in there. And naturally, you know, the best thing is turn his objection into a question. Because you can't necessarily answer an objection, but you can always answer a question. So what do I mean by this? Well, you know, why, Mark, can you not give me a bigger deposit versus your deposit is too low? Your deposit is too low. Well, what do you mean? Well, how come you can't give me a bigger deposit? Oh, John, now I understand what you mean. Oh, God, you should have just told me that before. So here's the reason why. You know, my partner and I, we've got a few properties. We're selling one of them, and actually we're selling it probably in 30 or 60 days, and we're in the same position as you. The guy's giving us a deposit as he goes. Or my money is not going to be free for another 3 or 4 or 5 days. So now you could answer his question and tie down, so test close. So at that point then you say, well, John, you know what? We resolve your deposit. We resolve your closing date and the amount. Is there anything else here that is preventing us from proceeding with the sale? And then you wait. And you wait. And you wait. The reason is very simple. You want him to pull out the objections, not you. Because if you start saying, is there anything else that would be preventing us from sale? And, you know, John, I understand, you know, I asked you for the windows to be replaced, but, you know, oh, I understand that, you know, I don't know, but you understand? Shut up. You're supposed to listen to what the vendor says. And there's also going to be a point there where you're going to have to assume the sale. There's a point that says, John, I think we've covered everything here, deposit, possession date, and price. So that means that we have a deal. Could we close on this thing? And don't say, could we close on the 6th? Are you okay to close on the 5th or the 7th? Are you okay on the 5th at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon? You have to test close and assume the sale. Does that make any sense for you guys? And guys, there's some great courses on sales techniques, but you know we have a bit of limited time here. But you understand my thought here is that I always use, I have a partner, I always have the dating principle. I want to make sure the vendor is winning. I will ignore, I'll feed it back, I'll test close it. And one of the key things also that you should always look at is that when you see when I said, when you talk to the vendor for the first time, I said, well, Mr. Vendor, my name is Marc Mousseau, my partner and I am a firm believer that in order to do sales, you need to pre-frame all the objections in advance. Pre-frame everything. I'll give you an example. A year and a half ago, I was traveling and I was going to see an 85-unit building, and I met the vendor, an older gentleman, really fun gentleman, and I had driven 4.5 hours to go see his building. So when I got there, you know, and I was very polite. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for coming to meet me at the building, for showing us the building. La 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 la. And I'm walking around, and say, you know, sir, you understand I live in Ottawa, and you know, it's quite a way to come down just to And there's a lot of repairs here, and I'm going to need to hire a professional property management company, and that's going to cost me probably 10 to 15% just to manage the construction here, because it's a major job. So I said that, imagine, at the start, somewhere at the start, and when I put the offer down, what do you think I said? John, I can't offer you your $2 million. I've got $150,000 in management fee just because I live in Ottawa, and I need somebody to do it locally. So pre-framing is awesome. Some of you guys have heard about reframing. So you reframe a question. So your deposit is too low could be reframe deposit too low. Well, it's a tough one to do, but anyway, reframing a question. Say, well, I don't really understand what you mean by deposit is too low. What would be a good amount for you? So now you're asking him to give the answer to that. So, okay, guys. Well, what I want to say is I want to say thank you now on behalf of our company, iCare Learning, myself and my wife, Lori. It's been a pleasure talking with you guys. This is a nice sales module. Remember, you sell a deal. You don't buy it. Always remember the dating principle. Always remember that the first objection that the vendor is giving you, you should ignore it. The second one, just hear him out, let the steam go. And the third one, feed it back nicely. And just continue working on that, make offers, and I want to thank you very much for being here. Come to our website, iCare Learning, I-C-A-R-E Learning. We'll have some blogs there, some questions. We'll have some other trainings for you guys available. And in the meanwhile, I just want to say on our behalf, live with ultimate passion. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful life. And I can't wait to hear from you guys and maybe meet you one day at a live event. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day.